Suicide Squad Isekai. This is the second video I made for this show. Technically the third, but I waited way too long for the second one, so I'm just jumbling all right here together for a good old jumbo pack. I finished the anime, and the main takeaway I think I can make from this is that it's such a fun, casual watch that I wish other anime were like this. Heck, that I wish other shows in general experimented and were like this. We all chuckled and laughed at the premise when it was first announced, but now that it's out, I feel like it's exceeded every expectation I've had for it. From how well it's animated, to how choreographed the fights are, to the story to a way lesser extent, but let's talk about it. One of the things that I really like within here is the dialogue between all of these characters. I've been watching the dub and sub for this show, and while it does kind of have the anime stiffness to it, it also just kind of feels natural, and by that I mean I can see each of these characters saying stuff like this. These aren't just like, hey, here's these characters, but they act totally different from any other thing we've seen them in. No, this is Harley Quinn acting like Harley Quinn. This is King Shark acting like King Shark. It all makes sense for these characters. Even the relationship they have with the orcs from the previous episodes really feels fun to me. The same orcs that were originally picking on them and about to beat them up because they couldn't speak the same language and they were taking up their seats are now here happy to help out the capital and goofing off with Harley Quinn and everybody. And it's okay, just in return going back to their facility, they now own it and they get a couple of crates of booze. They can just chill out there. They're fine with that. I really like that. It's so fun. And one of the things I do enjoy a lot about this show are the fight scenes. Not one fight scene is the same to another. In one instance, you can see them getting ready for an all-out gigantic war against Ratcatcher and his men, only for them to swerve it at the last second and for Deadshot to shoot the gem out of Ratcatcher's scepter, and for the Beastman to not be under his control anymore, and that's how they win that fight. That was a really strategical thing to do. And in another instance, they're going back to Rick Flag's helicopter to gather some equipment, and there they see a dragon building a nest around a helicopter, and now they had to fight a dragon. And in this situation, they can't be guns blazing towards this dragon because they're out of bullets, they're out of ammo. The only thing they have is Harley Quinn and her frying pan, and you'd be surprised that actually came in handy in this fight. This fight is so unique. Everybody tries to fight this dragon differently. Clayface tries to put up some walls around the dragon and try to slow it down. King Shark jumps at it and inevitably gets caught by the dragon. Deadshot tries to shoot at it with his last bullet, only to find out, its skin's impenetrable. And Peacemaker threatens to kill its baby, basically speaking. And that's basically how they were able to defeat the dragon, because they were able to distract it enough because it saw Peacemaker had an egg in his hand and it was about to go erratic. And now they have a pet dragon that thinks Harley Quinn's its mommy. What's fun? That's all I'm saying about the show, is that is super fun to me. And the fighting doesn't stop there, because by the time they get back to town, they see the building that the orcs are living in, and it's been burnt down to ashes. All of the orcs are being killed by these elves that are seemingly being brainwashed. Who could be doing this? It's Thinker and Enchantress. Yep, that's right. Just like Ratcatcher was controlling all of the Beastmen, Thinker is controlling all of these elves. So they had to fight them. But this one does not go their way. Everybody's fighting so unorganized. King Shark gets sent miles away into the water, only to find out Killer Croc is there to fight him there as well. And then Thinker starts giving everybody nightmares, glimpses into their worst reality, and just shoots all of them down, except for Harley Quinn and Rick Flag. They're there and they just leave after that? Why? Why do they just leave after that? They should have just taken all of them out right then and there. But of course, it's because they're not the good guys here. We need our good guys to have their revenge, and revenge they must do, because if they don't, the Queen will have their heads. And that boils over into the next part I want to talk about. I do not like any of the royal people within here. The princess, Cecil, they're probably the most known people within here, and I dislike them so much. Cecil's just kind of this uppity character. He just feels super generic to me, so I don't like him at all. And same goes for the princess. You know her character type. She's shy, timid. You know she's going to finally stand up to her mother towards the end. I feel like that's what this has been leading up to this entire time. And she has kind of a generic backstory as well. She always loved playing with the commoners. And obviously because there's a war going on, her friends end up getting killed, and this is the reason why she's her timid self now today. Because the one time she opened up and was talking to everybody about the food supplies they have in the capital, her friend tries to go and sneak in there and get himself killed. And the queen was able to look at her and say, "It's your fault he died. It's your fault." Okay, I guess. I don't know. I just really don't like the capital. The queen, I don't know the queen's story at all. They were able to defeat Ratcatcher and his men, and she looked angry because of it. Why? And I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but even after they defeated Thinker and the elves, she still seems vividly pissed and demands an army to go after them and get their heads. Why is she like this? Why does she not want these outsiders' help so bad? Is she that racist? I do want to highlight this rematch with Thinker a little bit more. Harley Quinn goes to fight Thinker, and it wasn't looking good for Harley Quinn at first. He could predict all of her stuff, going left, right, ducking. It just wasn't looking good for Harley until he decided to try and read her mind and go deep into her nightmares. That was his mistake. He saw the backstory between Harley Quinn and the Joker, and somehow he ends up over the acid pit and ends up getting thrown in there for some reason because her love for the Joker is so strong that I guess she can manipulate her own memories. I guess. I don't know. While still toxic, this does feel like the most healthy Harley Quinn and Joker relationship of any media I've seen so far. And because he fell into the acid pit in that memory, he's now kind of like frozen in shock in the real world, and Harley Quinn was able to defeat him, and I kind of liked it. It was still really unique. And afterwards, things escalated slightly more because Katana wanted her rematch with Harley. She killed Thinker, saying, "Hey, you're no use to me anymore, so bye-bye." Deheads him, goes to fight Harley. They have a pretty nice fight. I really love the animation for this fight. Clayface even comes and turns into a sword and helps. This series is almost over. That was episode 7. There's 3 episodes left of this show. What's the story exactly? It feels like the story's barely gotten started. The whole mission was to do some research and establish their base across these bridges or something, right? And gather resources. They haven't done any of that yet. So far, the story's just been, we're gonna fight the previous Suicide Squad that came here, and that's mostly what the story has been. Why is the queen upset at them? Why is she kind of xenophobic and wants their heads? Who is the Supreme Emperor guy thing they're working for under at the Empire? Is it just Katana? I don't think it's just Katana. It's somebody else, right? It feels like we've seen so much of this show, but yet I feel like there's so little information that's been said about this show. It feels like it's just a fun show, watching this fun gang go around doing fun stuff. And I am fine with that, but you're trying to tell me a story. Continue to tell this story. In episodes 8 through 10, I will say the lesser characters do start to develop more. Outside of all the DC characters within here, I think I spent most of my time when talking about this show complaining about how much time we spent in the castle and how much time we spent trying to focus on the lesser characters like Cecil and Princess Fiona. I won't say the characters were fully redeemed in the last few episodes, but I will say I understand their roles more. They were never supposed to be fully understood and fleshed out characters. By default, their characters are very generic, especially when it comes to anime and isekai. The prince or princess who is afraid to speak up to their more powerful parent, who looks down on them and their opinions about what to do, only for later in the story for them to prove how brave they are and that their plans are the more superior one. I think of shows like Legend of Arslan and Yona of the Dawn, to name a few with a similar premise. Also in these shows, the prince or princess also has a royal guard that they entrust their lives into, and this guard is willing to sacrifice anything to protect their majesty. The same can be applied here with Cecil and his admiration and loyalty towards Princess Fiona. Their characters were always meant to be just that, and would have been if it wasn't for the Suicide Squad coming in and changing up the status quo for everybody. Now the roles have changed to be a vessel for these characters, not only in the sense of being their guides throughout these lands, but also literally their vessels in these last few episodes, where they basically entrust these items to them that get them to finally fully unlock their magic powers that they've been teasing since the first episode. And now Clayface isn't the only one who can wield magic, but before we get too ahead of ourselves, who's the big bad of this show? The big bad of this show that's been orchestrating stuff behind the scenes for this entire series has finally revealed herself. It is the Undead King. And the Undead King has been with us the whole time. She took out the queen and disguised herself as said queen so she could give all these orders to her men to start these wars, to start this bloodshed, all so she could regain her powers and I guess rule the world, maybe not get sold away again. I'm not really sure. So that's exactly what she does, but she doesn't account for a lot of stuff. This feels like a really rushed plan on her part because she makes mistake after mistake after mistake. For starters, she sent Enchantress and Katana back after them, but now we have some new revealed layers behind these two that I don't remember ever being hinted at throughout the series. She took Enchantress's body and basically blackmailed her into doing her bidding, but during the battle, they retrieved the body rather quickly, mind you, and without it being under the Undead King's control anymore. Enchantress and Katana have now switched sides. Well, to be fair, Katana just stopped fighting altogether and we really don't get to see what she was being blackmailed with. Another thing she didn't account for was Cecil giving them the armor of the legendary warrior that sealed her away the first time. Each member of the Suicide Squad got to wield a piece of the armor and they basically underwent a magical girl transformation. They now have these interesting, fully isekai forms with magic and the ability to fly, so things are just getting pulled out of the ass left and right at this point. The Undead King still has the upper hand in fighting them though. Even their pet dragon has made a big growth spurt and is helping them out. What was it though? What was the way they won? What was the trick that sealed the deal? Harley Quinn and Princess Fiona pulled the old switcheroo since they looked very similar and were both wearing Harley Quinn makeup at the time. She disguised herself as Harley to get captured by the Undead King, and right when things were starting to look really bleak, when the king had Fiona in her grasp, she called onto the holy sword that sealed her away, and it shot out of King Shark's tummy and into her hand, cutting the head of the Undead King in the process, and it quickly rushed to the ending afterwards. I don't mind them rushing to the ending one bit because it feels like the main point of this story was the journey itself. But they did tease a season 2. At the end it was revealed Katana never went into the Isekai world with them. She stayed behind with Waller. The person who was pretending to be Katana is now sitting on the throne that was previously held by the Undead King. It's Joker. I was surprised he didn't make an appearance earlier in the series, so this reveal was really nice and legitimately caught me off guard. Having Joker's magic in this world being that he can fully disguise as anybody at any time is so interesting to me, especially since this is the more chaos-loving Joker. He poses a question for us to hear at the end. He asks himself, is Harley's itch for a new world now scratched that they were talking about in the first episode? Which makes me believe he orchestrated the whole thing so Harley can be seen as a hero to the people of this new world. For her to have a taste of what she was dreaming about. But is it only to take it away from her one day? Or is he legitimately just happy for her? I'm so curious. I cannot wait for a season 2. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. What were your opinions for the entire series of Suicide Squad Isekai? Let me know in the comments below and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. I really enjoyed my time watching this. It was very hard to come up with stuff to talk about, but I really enjoyed my time just sitting here and talking about the show and watching the show. It's such a good casual watch that I'd rewatch it again. I would. But let me know your opinions on it and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. Okay. Goodbye.